Welcome to my room. I wasn't really sure how to start this whole thing, so I took a look at the example videos for some guidance, and they didn't really help me, but I found it kind of funny that all these, leftist video essayists, like Big Joel and Thought Slime especially, have a lot of the same speech quirks and mannerisms as Liam Mitchell, who he's the prof. You know who he is. Anyway, now that I've warmed you up with a not funny, almost related anecdote, it's time to examine everyone's favorite outlet of reliable news and thought-provoking opinion pieces, PragerU. I love you, Dennis Prager. Please keep making videos echoing my biases, and please keep making videos for kids, protecting them from radical left wokeism. I'm not being entirely fair to PragerU, painting them in this negative light. After all, they're a reputable, respected, non-profit organization, and millions of people watch their videos, donate to them, and presumably believe in what they have to say. So let's see what they're all about. Here's a video the think tank over at PragerU cooked up. It's called Religious Liberty. You can't be free without this, with Kelly Shackelford. And the price I paid to unearth such sacred knowledge was placing a branding, a permanent vile scar on the algorithm that decides what YouTube videos I get to watch next. Appreciate the sacrifices I make for you. So, without further bullshit, let's get into it.
Who doesn't have religious freedom in the United States? You can be a Protestant, a Catholic, a Jew, a Muslim, or a Wiccan. You can believe in anything or nothing.
This is true and a good start. And I thought it was funny that they used a little alien for the anything part of that. Did you catch that? I thought that was kind of cute.
This was true, but not anymore.
Wait, what?
Seems like almost every week a new dispute arises between people of faith and government agencies alleging that believers are violating the rights of non-believers or simply violating government edicts.
What? I didn't know this was happening. And every week? This is an assault on our democracy. Religious freedom is at risk in America. Well, it would be if these statements were remotely true. There's really no evidence that this kind of thing is happening, at least not even close to the scale that he's describing. He brings up 3 religious dispute cases, examples meant to illustrate these attacks on religious expression. But looking into these examples, just barely even briefly skimming them, I get totally confused because they don't really support his claim at all. And if you zoom out and kind of put these cases into perspective, they kind of support the opposite idea, that religious freedom in America is fine, actually. In case you aren't up to date with PragerU's current crop of intellectuals and experts, Kelly Shackelford, the speaker in this video, is a lawyer or attorney or something at First Liberty, which is a law firm that specializes in cases of religious freedom. The firm's name refers to the First Amendment of the Constitution, of America, which states that the government cannot make laws officially sanctioning a particular belief system or make laws that limit their citizens' religious expression. Okay, that's important background for the stuff coming up next. Just pay attention, okay? The 3 cases cited as evidence of Shackelford's claims are cases whose defendants First Liberty represented. He goes over each of them later in the video. I'm just going to do that right now just to, move us along here. Number 1 was a football coach who got suspended or fired or disrespected in some way, I don't remember, for silently praying after his football games. He wasn't hurting anyone. He was just exercising his free speech, right? That's a breach of religious freedom, right? Well, it would be, except his case got overturned by the Supreme Court. Okay, but what about number 2? Peace Cross Memorial, ordered to be torn down on the grounds that it was paid for by government funds and maintained on government property. This is a cross that's been standing for decades, mind you, a memorial to residents of the town who died during World War I. I got a text. So there's definitely some overreach there, right? Religious expression being silenced? Well, no. This case made several rounds, but it was eventually also overturned by the Supreme Court. Okay, number 3 must have something, right? Surely. Okay, listen to this one. It's a doozy. It's a doozy. Just you wait. A small Jewish community was blocked from congregating in the home of their rabbi by a government organization in Houston. Now, this case is really good evidence, right? These people are literally in a house. They're not even in public anywhere. They're practicing inside their own home. They're just quietly exercising their beliefs and being persecuted for it, right? Just guess what I'm gonna say. Yeah, you're right. It got overturned. Okay, they didn't even need to go to the Supreme Court. They just appealed something in it and they got it overturned. Okay, it was easy. All 3 of these cases that he brings up to back up his claim were successfully overturned or appealed or whatever, either through local circuits or at the Supreme Court level. And this detail is really, really critical because it has huge implications for Kelly's claims, and he just conveniently forgot to mention it. To clarify, he did say that the cross was left standing, but he didn't say a word about the other 2 cases, implying that that case was the exception, not the rule. The way they were presented is misleading because someone just watching the video without doing other additional research would assume that those 2 cases were lost. and maybe even get rightfully mad about it. I will happily concede this. 2 of those cases needing to go to the Supreme Court is frankly ridiculous and shouldn't have happened. It was a definite overstep by whatever government organization filed their complaints on this issue. Still, I would argue that these 2 cases being tried and eventually settled is a symptom of a robust legal system built upon the rights defined by America's founding fathers. And furthermore, stupid cases like these cropping up now and then are not sufficient proof that a fundamental right to self-expression is somehow being held in contempt, or even worse, under attack by the institutions of an entire nation. It's the same as saying that that random woman in Nebraska trying to sue all gay people is sufficient proof that the rights of gays are somehow under a real threat in America, which is a different conversation, but I don't think Sylvia Driskell is, leading the charge on that particular issue. And by the way, that case is another example of someone expressing their religious freedom, since that woman claimed to be suing on behalf of God and Jesus Christ. That's not really an important detail, I just thought it was funny. I wanted to dig deeper though. This guy works at a law firm. Surely we can look up his case history. And yeah, we can. It's available right there on the First Liberty website. And when I looked at the website under the past cases section, I found something crazy. Not only did they win all 3 of those cases that Kelly Shackelford brought up, they win basically every single case they take. Out of the 99 past cases that First Liberty has listed on their website, yes, I counted, only 3 of them are marked lost. The others are either won or case closed, which I don't know what case closed means, but there aren't that many of those either. I don't believe that this is a comprehensive list of every single case that's ever been covered by the firm, but understand that this is not a biased sample created by, an evil, woke, anti-religious organization to diminish Kelly's claims. He himself chose to show you these cases, even though they disprove the claims he's making in the video. I do have a few theories on why he picked these ones, but I'll get to those in a bit. So no, there are not new disputes between believers and public officials every week. In fact, there's only been 100 in the past 10 years, according to Kelly's own website, which would math out to roughly 2 every 3 months. So yeah, you can continue to be a Christian or a Wiccan or whatever, and the odds are good you won't get any grief for it whatsoever. And on the off chance you do, it seems like almost all these cases have a happy ending. My streak of anger at PragerU for making me do math has kind of given way to puzzlement, being puzzled. Why mask the truth? Why make it seem like believers are being basically harassed through the legal system when they're not? What is Kelly's goal here? If you've been following along with the PragerU video, Kelly Shackelford has now convinced you that we are seeing frequent and unwarranted accusations against believers of violating others' rights, from independent organizations as well as government officials. He hasn't made this point for no reason. He's making it because it's a prerequisite to his real argument, that the government or society or something is trying to erase religion, or at least the public expression of religion, from America altogether.
Freedom of religion, one of the main goals of the American Revolution, has morphed into freedom from religion, one of the main goals of the French Revolution.
That claim he just made is an extremely inflammatory claim, and it's very, very alarming if it's true. But it's not. I'm not going to do this. It's not true, okay? Fine, okay, we'll talk about it. To preface this quote, the PragerU video goes a little bit more in depth on the American Revolution and the ideals upon which it was based, and restates that First Amendment passage about religious freedom. Of course, when the Founding Fathers wrote that every man is endowed to inalienable rights and created equal, they meant every man is created equal as long as they are white and not gay and not women. And by the way, the notion that America has been a perfect sanctuary for people of all religions to congregate and express themselves openly and safely until now, the big 2024, is ridiculous. But that's not really the point. After that, he compares the ideals of the American and French revolutions, describing America's revolution as a religious event and France's revolution as an anti-religious event. This claim actually prompted me to read a little bit more about the French Revolution, and he's not all the way wrong. The French Revolution happened more for reasons of economic instability, food insecurity, and idealism than religious reform. But the revolutionaries' government did enact laws condemning the practice of Catholicism and also Christianity in general, and they actually killed a lot of priests and nuns and stuff during the period known as the Reign of Terror. However, it's far from the truth to say that the French Revolution was free from religion. An atheist religious group calling itself the Cult of Reason gained a ton of popularity during the time of the French Revolution, and the actual government installed religious practices into their own laws, creating the cult of the Supreme Being at the behest of the revolutionary leader and pretty much dictator at that point, Maximilien Robespierre. So all this is to say, no, the French Revolution did not have freedom from religion. They just weren't practicing Catholicism specifically anymore. What Kelly's done here is take a thing that happened, that was bad, the French Revolution killing a bunch of priests, slapping a label on that bad thing that doesn't even fit, freedom from religion, and then pointing at a bunch of non-evidence that that label is now happening here in America. This is called a straw man argument, by the way. The people in the French Revolution didn't have freedom from religion either, you goblin. They just had to worship, like, philosophy and stuff. Just because the French Revolution was bad doesn't mean freedom from religion is bad, because they didn't even have it. In fact, I would argue you can't have freedom of religion without first having freedom from religion. How are you supposed to worship Slenderman if the government is making you worship E.T.? It doesn't make sense. Freedom from religion isn't some like weird leftist new gen perversion of freedom of religion. It's literally like the main prerequisite. They're mutually inclusive. You need one to have the other. The rest of the video outlines how in the past authoritarian regimes have eliminated the right to religious expression almost immediately after taking power. And these are actual regimes, mind you, where this type of thing is an actual problem. He expresses that even non-religious people should care about freedom of religion, since it's often the first pillar of human rights that gets knocked down. And he's right that even non-religious people should care about freedom of religious expression, but I have no idea how stuff happening in like communist Russia and China have anything to do with American religious freedom. Maybe he's making like a slippery slope argument, in which case I would say this stuff that's happening that he brought up in the US is not even remotely comparable to the stuff happening in these examples. The reason he gives for why regimes like to take away religious freedom first is that religious people have something higher to answer to than their authoritative government, and that government doesn't like the idea of that. Here's him saying that.
Why do repressive governments fear religious freedom? Because it challenges the authority of the state more than any other freedom. People who adhere to a religion believe that there's something higher than the state, and no repressive government can tolerate such a belief.
And maybe he was right on like the Russia example, but I'd like to bring up the point that a regime or autocracy can very, very easily co-opt a religion for their own autocracy, and then anyone who disobeys the supreme, now divine leader is basically disobeying God himself pretty much. This thing happening, by the way, is so common that they made a word for it. It's called a theocracy. A really good relevant example of a theocracy is the Taliban in Afghanistan, who banned women from, let me see here. Oh yeah, going to university, going to high school, going to parks, going to the gym, letting men into their houses without a male guardian present, working, you know, that thing you need to do to get money to eat and stuff, and also just random basic shit like walking around with your head uncovered. Sorry, women, you probably wanted to do those things, but hey, take it up with the big guy upstairs. I'm just the messenger. What do you want me to do? I bring up the idea of theocracies because I wanted to highlight the importance of not having a government-sponsored religion or a government-mandated religion, which is the same thing that the First Amendment says in order to have religious freedom. And also just because he's making it sound like unchecked organized religion can do no harm, which yes, it definitely can. For all this wrong stuff, he's right about one thing. Religious freedom is important. He's right that you should care about freedom of religion regardless of your personal beliefs, especially since I would argue being atheist or agnostic or whatever is a form of religious expression. Even if you don't believe that there is a God, your belief that there isn't a God still sounds like a religious belief to me. He's right that the First Amendment was a really good idea. That's why America's founding fathers wrote it down first. But from the way he's choosing to talk about it,
America is also still standing, but it won't be for much longer.
It's incredibly clear he's being intentionally alarmist to garner outrage, and that he believes the audience he's speaking to already has in their heads that Muslims or the government or the woke or whatever are destroying Christian values, when really the majority of these freedom of religion cases he's talking about are just people feeling like they don't deserve to be punished after harassing gay people or vulnerable women outside an abortion clinic because it's what Jesus would have wanted. Some guy talking at people through a loudspeaker outside an abortion clinic is actually one of First Liberty's current cases. Speaking of which, remember when earlier I said I have a bunch of theories about why only a fraction of First Liberty's cases are listed and they are all wins? Well, get ready, because I'm going to tell you that theory right now. Buckle up, baby. Kelly Belly here claims he gets hundreds of cases per year.
8 years ago, my caseload was 47. Last year, it was over 300.
Side note, he says this to prove the persecution of religious people in America is like ramping up. It's not like he just scaled up the size of his law firm and the scope of his law firm and the amount of cases they could handle over 8 fucking years. So why does he only show us a fraction of the cases he's seeing over the last 10 years? Well, every single one of the closed cases listed on his website are pretty clear-cut moral victories as well as physical ones. Not That's not what I meant. Physical, legal victories as well as moral ones. Even reading up on the very few cases they lost, it feels like whoever First Liberty was representing was in the right, practicing their own religion in their own lane and getting fucked over for it. This actually surprised me, since I assumed the number one case type law firms like this one would be about discrimination or harassment. But the only examples of that type of case I could find were in the open cases section. For example, Zachary Hebb, that guy outside Planned Parenthood that I was just talking about, or Aaron and Melissa Klein, a baker couple who were sued for discrimination after they refused to bake a wedding cake for a same-sex marriage. I mean, oh, no, not again. Personally, if I was getting gay married, I maybe wouldn't want those bakers to have their fingers in my dough, but what do I know? Maybe the cake is really good. The secret ingredient is homophobia. The fact that I managed to find 2 cases of this nature from just barely skimming their current cases section, but I couldn't find any in their past cases, makes me believe that First Liberty is only choosing to publicly display cases that align with this idea of destruction of religious freedom in America. Which, by the way, Kelly Shackelford has written a ton of other articles on this same issue. He's like the turbo expert about this. The problem is they win all the cases of this nature because their clients are actually in the right. So the overarching argument they're trying to prove has no real ground to stand on. Sorry guys, maybe you should start sandbagging in your next case so your boss has something to talk about. All of this is obviously just a theory. It's just that genre of cases is what I imagine a religion-based law firm will be doing most of the time. And look, even if you're the most bigoted, hateful moron out there, everyone deserves to have a lawyer. That's what the legal system needs in order to function. Whether or not they choose to list your case on their, feel-good collection of religious moral victories is between you and the Kelster. I don't really care one way or the other. But in conclusion, no, Barbara, no one's going to arrest you for praying, and no one's carrying out tactical operations on your church in rural Oklahoma. America has, according to the Pew Research Center, a 70.6% Christian population, and the number of Americans who practice just any religion is more than 3/4 of the total population. So if non-religious people really are attacking religious people, they would be outnumbered 3-1. I don't know where the sentiment that people out there are seeking to remove Americans' right to religious freedom came from. Maybe you just assume that religious-based persecution is everywhere if you handle 300 cases of it a year, or maybe you think Christian values are being destroyed since gay people are less afraid of having rocks thrown at them in public. Or maybe you're just concocting outrage to drive tax-deductible donations to the conservative education nonprofit you're affiliated with. I don't know. You will always remain an enigma to me, Kelly Shackelford. Anyway, that's the end of the video. This is the second time I recorded it because the first time I wasn't recording. So God, I really hope I'm recording right now. I'm just going to check that I'm still recording. Yes, I am. Oh, I just looked at my hair. It's really unfortunate. Well, that's just one of those things. Shout out to the great minds over at PragerU. And of course to Kelly Shackelford, my main man. I've really enjoyed making this, although I probably am not going to think that when I'm editing it. Bye-bye. Give me a 100.